Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to the listeners wherever you happen to be in the world. Tonight, I would like to talk about the debate that was initiated in the House of Lords in London by Lord Jonathan Oates. This is the issue is should Zimbabwe be readmitted to the Commonwealth? Most significantly, should it be readmitted before the 2023 elections? I'd like to start by playing the video of Lord Ox as he introduced the issue in the House of Parliament. Bear with me.
Severe damage that I believe would be done to the reputation of the Commonwealth, the Zimbabwe people's struggle for democratic and human rights, and to the upholding of such rights throughout the Commonwealth if Zimbabwe were to be readmitted while its government remains in flagrant violation of the Commonwealth Charter and of the Commonwealth's 1991 Harare Declaration. Yet this is what we are told may happen following the visit of a Commonwealth delegation to Zimbabwe in November, possibly even ahead of Zimbabwe's elections due later this year. Members of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Zimbabwe, of which I declare an interest as co-chair, and have all written to the Secretary-General on this matter, and I thank them for that. But we also understand that the UK government is not minded to oppose readmission because it didn't want to be seen as isolated on this issue. I understand the government's sensitivity given the UK's deeply troubled history in Zimbabwe. However, ignoring the oppression faced by the people of Zimbabwe today does not atone for past oppression inflicted under colonial rule. On the contrary, it compounds it. So I hope that rather than bowing to the pressure of others, our government is working with fellow member states to ensure that the core principles of the Commonwealth are not fundamentally undermined by Zimbabwe's readmission, while being clear that if necessary, the UK will stand in defence of those principles, even if it has to do so alone. At the conclusion of the Commonwealth visit, the Secretariat issued the following statement. Zimbabwe has made significant progress in its journey to rejoin the Commonwealth family. This mission by the Commonwealth forms part of the broader membership process, and we look forward to advancing this further. It's not clear what progress they had in mind, as little further detail was provided to support this assertion, but all the evidence from independent observers point to the opposite conclusion. The Commonwealth statement was particularly puzzling as the Harare Declaration is unambiguous in asserting the Commonwealth's belief in the liberty of the individual under the law, in equal rights for all citizens regardless of gender, race, colour, creed or political belief, and in the individual's inalienable right to participate by means of free and democratic political processes in framing the society in which he or she lives. My Lords,
There we have it. Tonight, I would like to invite Benjamin to help in the discussion, and also I noticed we've just been joined by Godfrey, and you can discuss this video quickly and then move on to the follow-up comments that were made by one of the Labour barons during that particular debate. So before we go on to the comments made by the Labour baron, I don't know whether Benjamin, you'd like to say something quickly on what Lord Oates said.
Thank you very much. Good evening, good morning, viewers. I think he was very clear in terms of what was agreed upon and what is being said. And he clearly states there is a difference uh, between what is on the ground in Zimbabwe and what the report says that came from Zimbabwe. So with those uh, two different opinions uh, put into play, we can see that I would agree with him on the position that it is it is quite worrying to see that there could be a chance of uh, re-engaging Zimbabwe as things stand, and then with that, what what image is the Commonwealth going to portray they themselves as an organization, and what example are they setting for other nations that are part and parcel of that? Are they willing to lower their their measuring stick to accommodate, or like what he says, to try and solve the already fragile relationship between Zimbabwe and the UK? So it's pretty it's a very delicate issue, but something that really needs to be addressed from a point of human rights, and what are they helping Zimbabwe as a people, or they are accepting just for the sake of, you know, let us just mend ties. Thank you.
Thank you. Godfrey, good evening. You want to have a say there?
Good evening. Yes, good evening and greetings, viewers. Um, I do agree with what Ben has been saying, and also having listened partly to what the speaker was saying regarding this matter. I think there is momentum. I think the support has shifted from no to almost yes now. I think it's the balance now is within the yes admission, and I think there is a losing. The ones fighting for no admission are probably going to lose in the end, and we are aware that Zimbabwe is desperate to get readmitted and be counted amongst the rest, and also not to be labeled like. I see the predicament which Britain has here. There is, because of their historical ties, for them to champion the admission, it can be easily misinterpreted as, and obviously the ZANU can jump on that and say they want to recolonize. I would really understand. On the other hand, I think the shift is in the yes camp.
Well, the issue there, I think that he raised and he articulated very well, was that I think it would be wrong of Britain to compromise its position on the issue of human rights, democracy in Zimbabwe, just to be um, on the same wavelength as some of the Commonwealth countries who want Zimbabwe to be readmitted. And in fact, I think the way you put it is really precise. To compromise on those fundamental rights. This is the right to a meaningful vote, the right to life. What ZANU PF has done is actually neglect or violate the Harare Declaration, which is really the basis for the democratic values that the Commonwealth are saying this is what we stand for as a Commonwealth. And to violate them under the pretext that our Britain doesn't want to be seen to be speaking at the singing from the different hymn page with other countries would be totally wrong, and that's where I totally agree with him. In this particular case, this would be one area where Britain would be better off standing, even if it means standing on their own. Even if all the other 52 or whatever number it is of the Commonwealth countries all say, no, you must join, Britain must stand firm on those issues and say no. I think that point is important. And in this particular case, if they were to compromise, who would they be trying to appease? Is it the ordinary people, ordinary Zimbabweans, or is it the ruling party? I think that is a question I would want to put to you, Godfrey. In your case, what do you think they'll be? Who do you think they'll be trying to appease there?
If they go along with the yes admission in the face of violations, yeah, I don't know if they would change their position to yes based on what the assessors that were sent report. Which one which one carries more weight? The assessors report or the recent reports that are coming here and there? Where are they getting the details that go against the assessors report, the Commonwealth ones?
Well, the assessors report is just statements they got from some of the players on the ground, but the political reality on the ground is a well documented one, going back to the time when the Zimbabwe was booted out of the Commonwealth in 2003. The Commonwealth, they had observers in the last election, 2018. And they are the ones who came out and said, no, those elections were not free, fair, and credible. And they came out with a list of recommendations that Zimbabwe should carry out these recommendations to meet the Commonwealth requirements for free, fair, and credible elections. And none of those recommendations have been implemented. None. So, to be quite honest, in this particular case, the assessors, like what Lord Ott said there, are saying there've been progress in Zimbabwe, but never said what progress had been made. Because one is going to ask what progress was made, for you to come out with such a statement. We know there are some African countries, particularly, that have been pushing for Zimbabwe to be readmitted in the Commonwealth.
I think
Yes.
the main problem that the UK government is facing right now, as per what is being said, is that there are countries that are still within the Commonwealth that are practicing exactly like how Zimbabwe, if not worse, how Zimbabwe is engaging democracy and human rights. So the question now comes to why chase away Zimbabwe while it's the others that are doing the same violations are still being engaged.
Well,
So
I don't know whether there, Benjamin, you are referring to the article,
yeah,
which is a follow-up on the comments made by Lord Baron Sonny Long. Is that what you were referring to?
uh, yes, partly that is what I am referring to. But I was also referring to the part of progress, and I was going to go further and say, so this means that their measuring stick has been cut so short to accommodate everybody, whether good, bad, and ugly. So when they
Well,
say
I mean,
progress,
sorry, are you saying there's been progress made, or are you saying somebody is saying it? Is it you
the
saying that there was progress?
progress made would be uh, would be probably because uh, the what was happening back then is not as bad, but is bad. Do you understand what I mean? It's it's justification
Well,
because
if
we
we're going
need
to
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 accommodate.
be to be talking of we should lift the readmit Zimbabwe because it has made progress, we've got to spell out what progress was
What
made.
progress is it? Yes,
Yeah,
I
is
agree
either
with
the
you there.
elections in Zimbabwe going to be free, fair, and credible? The last time you failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. The signs on the ground right now is that Zimbabwe is not going to hold free, fair, and credible elections. So when you say there's been progress, this is why I was asking you: is it you talking now, or are you referring to what the Lord Long was saying in the article in Blue Air 24?
Yes, progress progress as far as Zimbabwe is concerned, there has not been much progress, and it also depends what progress are we talking about. Progress as in ease of doing business, probably yes. Progress in terms of human rights, probably no.
I
So
think let's talk to a specific one. In a follow up, unfortunately, I don't have that video of Lord of Baron Sonny Long. Um, but there was a follow up report in the Blower 24 in which he is quoted as saying, for Zimbabwe's application to readmission to the Commonwealth, the 2023 elections could and should be an opportunity for the government to demonstrate its democratic credentials. And then he goes on to say, sadly, the portents are not good. So he's admitting there that the situation on the ground is not good. And yet, as article goes, he goes on to say, therefore, asking Zimbabwe uh, to implement the to all free and fair elections is asking too much of Zimbabwe, and it will not be fair. And they quote him in the article saying the Commonwealth is a progressive bloc. However, that does not make me blind to the flaws and inconsistencies of the organization and its constituent nations. On the issue of capital punishment, for example, only 37% of the Commonwealth countries have abolished the death penalty in law, compared to 57% of all the countries in the internationally. I find that to become completely uh, disappointing in the sense that Zimbabwe was not booted out of the Commonwealth in 2003 because it had the death penalty on its books. So why is he quoting that? Is that relevant? The answer is no, it is not relevant. Totally irrelevant. What has that got to do with it? Zimbabwe was booted out of the Commonwealth specifically because it failed to meet the Harare Declaration of the democratic values of free, fair, and credible elections, rule of law, those democratic values. It failed to meet them repeatedly. So this is somebody who is now saying to ask Zimbabwe to hold free, fair, and credible elections will be asking too much, and it is unfair. Are we saying that Zimbabwe is incapable of holding free, fair, and credible elections? Is that what he's trying to say?
Yeah, I think you are right there when you say what progress. I think that is what they should be pinned down on, the ones supporting the readmission. What progress has been made? What areas? Basically, they could be ticking off against the 1991 declaration or the the report after the 2018 elections. Say this area is now improved, this area, and if they can tick off and justify their word, which is progress has been made, then it would make sense. Because last time, 2018, it was their report that stated that Zimbabwe's elections were not free and fair. And now here we are talking about elections, and they said there's been progress. Can they tick off from their report of 2018? I think that is the, yeah, you have mentioned that what areas, that is the point that should be raised.
Well, in this, Lord Sonny, he himself acknowledges that
Mm.
there's not been any progress. He
Mm.
acknowledges it, and yet he still says, "Oh, still it will be unfair to ask. It will be asking too much to ask Zimbabwe to hold free and fair elections."
So, in other words, they are saying Zimbabwe cannot be a democratic nation.
Yeah, I mean that's what he is implying.
Which is
Yes,
madness. Then,
there
in that
have
case,
been other countries in the Commonwealth who have failed to meet the same criteria, but I do not think, so far anyway, I do not think there is one country that has exceeded repeatedly, violated those standards to the same level that ZANU-PF has been doing.
we should not compare two wrongs. Two wrongs will never make a right. If somebody is doing bad and then the other person is doing worse, they're all doing just bad. It's just as simple as that. You can't say the bad becomes better because it's not worse. That doesn't. It's a slap in the face of democracy and human rights. Then
Yeah, yeah, I do agree. There should be no or lowering the bar for democracy. And I also see, based on the July 24 report, I also see that there is a general fear or that Zimbabwe might look east. They might intensify their look east policy.
Well, I agree with you there. Their look east policy, if they were going to implement it, they would have implemented it by now. It was put out in 2003, so it's nearly 20 years now. You
Mm.
know, and in this particular case, are we going to after after all these years of Zimbabwe fighting for that right? Are we saying now that the Zimbabweans should give up that right? That is what is at issue there.
Mm.
I think readmitting Zimbabwe in the present situation into the Commonwealth will give ZANU-PF the confidence of saying they do not need to hold free, fair, and credible elections. They are still going to be readmitted into the uh, uh, commune of nations. And that is the wrong message to send, particularly a few months before the elections. What about if the Zimbabwe is readmitted and ZANU-PF blatantly rigs the elections, including using violence?
Mm.
Should Zimbabwe be booted out of the Commonwealth again, Benjamin?
I mean, let's look at the situation on the ground. Like you stated there, yeah, the response that was given to say that we still fall short, far short of that mark, right? Which means gearing up to the 2023 election, the situation has not improved. It is still where it was back then, right? So it's I don't think it's the right thing to do. Of course, we would want to see Zimbabwe coming back into the Commonwealth, but it is okay. Like you said, if they, I mean, if you agree that they can come back into the Commonwealth as things stand, which means you are kind of bending towards uh, what the ruling party is doing now, to say no, since you cannot meet what we want, we will come meet you there. Do you understand? You are bending your own rules and principles just to accommodate them. And then if they do continue doing the same thing, they will they will ride you over. Obviously, to say you came, you met us whilst you were the country that we were, and knowing these guys, they will still say you needed us. So what is to stop them from doing that? It's I think it shows that one party is very spineless if they were to do something like that.
Godfrey, do you think if they were booted out and the elections were rigged, blatantly rigged, Zimbabwe will be readmitted?
Uh, would be no, I don't think there would be. If
Sorry, will be
if the
booted out
readmission
of
comes,
the Commonwealth.
if the
I mean,
readmission
what I'm
comes,
saying, sorry, is they admit Zimbabwe now, yeah?
yeah.
We
Hmm.
go into the elections, ZANU-PF rigs them blatantly, including using wanton violence.
Mm.
In your opinion, would Zimbabwe be booted out again of the Commonwealth?
No, no. I think they will just continue uh, talking to them uh, without expelling them out of that union.
I totally agree with that. I think it would be ridiculous for them to do that, particularly when they've been warned. But I think it
Mm.
will open a can of worms for the Commonwealth,
Yes,
because
sure.
what will be there to stop other Commonwealth countries, particularly in our
Exactly.
part of the world,
Mm.
thinking, well,
Yes.
if ZANU-PF can do it, I can do it too.
Yes. And
Yeah,
I very much agree with you. That situation will be uncontrollable for them.
yeah. And on the part of ZANU themselves, there won't be any need to act compliant to whatever they you know, the standard they are looking for.
Gentlemen,
They,
ZANU PF is going to do what ZANU PF always does. Let us not get things twisted or to try and say they will do any different. Already the process is going on like how it was going on from yesteryears. Whether they are going to be engaged or they will still do what ZANU-PF does. So I don't think they are going to to try and rectify anything to try and meet the Commonwealth. Rather, the Commonwealth would go and meet them. And that is a very, very dangerous position that they will find themselves in.
Yeah, they shouldn't set that precedent at all. And
Exactly.
I think, well, when we look at things on the ground on this subject, on whether the debate on whether it should be readmitted, I think the yes seems to be gaining momentum. Mainly, this is coming from the African countries that themselves see nothing wrong with Zimbabwe because they also practice the same. So I think, I don't know what can be done to highlight that and also to make them see sense in what we have
Well,
been discussing
one of
here.
the African leaders who have been pushing for Zimbabwe to be readmitted is Paul Kagame of Rwanda.
Mm,
And we know that Rwanda is not a really healthy and functioning democracy. And the guy has been in power for decades and has been resisting pressure to have a functioning democracy there. And
mm,
I think he's pushing for a country like Zimbabwe to be readmitted for his own selfish reasons. Because if if you are not delivering free, fair, and credible elections, and you can point at somebody who is doing worse, I think it makes you feel better.
yeah,
Yes,
You
but
know,
also let us not continue blaming outside. This year call for readmission is also coming from within the opposition, to be frank. So we should not be saying others. Us, sometimes. We want to be re-engaged the way we are.
well, I think you're right. There are opposition members and in the you know what you call it, the NGOs. And I think from my reading the reports in November last year, many Zimbabweans locally supported readmission, that Zimbabwe should be readmitted. But in this particular case, we should not forget that Zimbabwe has been booted out. In other words, at the present moment, when it comes to the Commonwealth decision, the Zimbabweans are not consulted because they are not a member. So you're only
yeah,
applying. But the point there is that there have been quite a number of African countries, and some of them are the same countries who also have been pushing for the lifting of the sanctions. So they are tying the two things together.
mm,
And in fact, ZANU PF was hoping the Commonwealth, being readmitted into the Commonwealth, will put the British government under even more pressure to lift the sanctions, particularly
yeah,
now that the European Union has lifted the sanctions itself. And then that will leave countries like America isolated and then under increasing pressure to lift the sanctions too. You
mm,
know, but if the British were to say no, and I think in the Commonwealth at the present moment they'll be looking at, they really want a consensus position. Uh, I think Godfrey was saying, would you think the 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 voice of those calling for uh, ZANU PF to be Zimbabwe to be readmitted are on the rise. Uh,
yeah,
would Yes, I think it's possible, but nonetheless, I also believe the increasing pressure on the ZANU PF right now, because as ZANU PF is, as we are getting closer to the election, the level of political violence has gone up. The level of vote rigging has gone up. The failure to produce a verified voters roll, all those things are coming to the surface. And at a time when the Commonwealth is trying to come up with a decision, increasing the pressure on the Commonwealth members themselves to say, if you go into this blindly, you'll find yourself with a lot of egg on your faces, because you will admit ZANU PF Zimbabwe into the Commonwealth, and a few months down the line, you'll have all this overwhelming evidence that ZANU PF rigged the elections. What are you going to do then? You can't put the Zimbabwe out again, which is what you were saying, Godfrey, and I agree with you. And to let them stay in the Commonwealth will open a can of worms, because all other Commonwealth countries will be saying, well, so the Harare Declaration, uh, those we can forget. If you are desperate to stay in power, forget free, fair, and credible elections. Do whatever you've got to do to win power. The Commonwealth will never punish you. What is the point of having rules if we are going to disregard them? That is the point here, you know. And I think that is something that the Commonwealth members, particularly some of the senior ones, would really find themselves in a very embarrassing situation.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yes,
believe
definitely.
they're not setting a good example for the organization itself. If you are going to disregard your own rules and principles to bend over to go and get one nation out as it is, and what is to stop all the others from doing exactly the same, of which most of them are doing exactly the same. And I believe the situation will just get worse if caution is not taken.
But I think you need to qualify what you're saying. What do you mean everyone is doing exactly the same? What are they doing exactly
Most
the
of
same?
the African countries, like you said, Rwanda is not very much of a democratic nation, right? There is there is a lot that is going on. This is why they are saying we cannot judge Zimbabwe too harshly because others are doing.
Benji,
So which means,
who else is doing the same?
well, they never did state who else, but the article said,
No, I mean, you are the one who is saying everybody else is doing the same. And I'm asking you, who else is doing the same?
okay, uh, can I get back to you on that? Let me just go and refer back to that.
Yeah. Um, I think the Commonwealth has a chance to reset the rules of admission to this grouping. If they readmit Zimbabwe without meeting all the requirements which they set themselves, then I think, as you say, it opens a can of worms. Everyone can lower the standards and just won't expect to be expelled out of the union. So this is a chance. If they lower their bar of admission, then that's it. They would have
I I
thrown
I
them.
I I, I think I take exception to Lord or Baron Sonny Leong's comment that asking Zimbabwe to hold free, fair, and credible election is asking too much, and it's not fair. It's not fair to whom? To ordinary Zimbabweans. In what respect? Does he think people will be so happy that we hold free, fair, and credible elections? We'll be running into the street and getting run over by cars because we are so happy. This is, I think, to me, is typical of some of the racism that we have seen, where somebody takes this superiority issue to the point of being ridiculous. It's asking for too much. To whom are you talking? Are you saying that? Is it too much to ZANU-PF, or too much to the ordinary people who have been fighting and dying for free, fair, and credible elections? I mean, I find that honestly to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
So to come back to the point that you asked me when you say who, right? He says Long asked whether keeping Zimbabwe outside the group would do any good. He also pointed out the Commonwealth itself was not entirely in good standing, with some of its members also violating basic human rights. So, which definitely means that within the Commonwealth, there are their members, which means countries that are also violating these human rights. Although he never did go ahead and actually go and point out as to which country.
Well, Benji, sorry, if you are talking of what Lord Long was saying there, he did give you an example of capital punishment.
Yes.
And that and to me is absolutely ridiculous, because capital punishment was not the reason why Zimbabwe was put out of the Commonwealth. Yes, there have been other countries that have failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections, but at least you can tell some of them, okay, it's not perfect, but you can see they're trying. The level of violation in Zimbabwe, particularly when you look at 2008, is so outrageous. How could you have a situation where somebody wins 73% of the vote, and then you say, no, we'll stop counting. And then for the next 6 weeks, you're recounting. You're recounting 5 million votes. And then suddenly that 73% is whittled down to 47%. Where else has that happened? Where else has you seen the level of violence that we saw in Zimbabwe in 2008? Nowhere else. And to readmit somebody when you say, oh, no, we can't accept you as part of our group because of all these things, when he has not shown any sign that he's willing to change those things, it's ridiculous. And to argue that he's actually doing us a favor, to ask us as Zimbabwe to hold free and fair elections would be asking for too much. Too much to whom? To you and me, who have been fighting for free, fair, and credible elections. All of a sudden, there were free, fair, and credible elections in Zimbabwe, we'll get too excited and we'll run onto the street and get run over by cars because we're too excited about it. That is the most patronizing statement anyone can give. I find that to be totally unforgivable. That, I don't believe with somebody would dare make such a statement, such a patronizing statement, particularly to the people who have been victims of a regime like ZANU-PF.
Yes, it's quite astonishing to actually hear such a thing. That, I mean, in other words, they're just saying Zimbabwe is practically incapable of ever holding a democratic election. Zimbabwe can never be a democracy.
Exactly. Personally, I think in fact, if Zimbabwe was readmitted before the 2023 elections and go on to blatantly rig the elections 2023, I think at the next opportunity that Zimbabwe gets to get out of the Commonwealth, it should. Because why should you be a member of an organization that treats your fellow Zimbabweans as if they are some inferior race, you know, uh, to whom holding free and fair elections is almost like, this will get you too excited about it. No, you know, rig the elections. That's more like it. That's normal for you. You know,
Yeah.
we should accept it as normal. I find that to be unacceptable.
Yes, it's a very sad article.
Yeah, I think this lot, if there was a way, we should be challenged, raises the too much for who question. If there was a way of writing to him, but I think because I just wanted to close for my comments, and because I have another commitment waiting, I want to just say there is a chance that Zimbabwe might get readmitted through the back door. This probably, if it's based on the number of votes, I think they might get the nod. But thereafter, I don't see, if they are admitted, I don't see ZANU doing any better democracy-wise. They would actually, in fact, get worse, re-intensify there because there is no punishment attached to the wrongdoing. So I think if we have a voice, we might have the need to get clarification, especially on what problems, what areas, and also on the Lord coming. But the danger is real, it's there. The danger for readmission without any democratic change. I think that's that. Are we still on for some time?
No,
I
I
was
think that's your closing remark. Benjamin, I was just going to ask you to give your closing remarks as well.
okay. Thank you. I think from a business perspective, I think it's okay for Zimbabwe to get re-engaged, but when it comes to the freedoms and the doing things right, I don't think we are quite there yet, and I don't see the need to lower down the mark just to accommodate a faithful few. I don't think that is the right thing, and this would actually help. It would actually justify to say, why should we implement any reforms when they can just take us, or when they can accept us as we are? So this does not give portray a good image in terms of principles of the organization and the rules that they set. And to say that Zimbabwe is incapable of being a democratic nation, I find that is an insult to Zimbabweans as a nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think we'll leave it at that. I sincerely hope, as my closing remark, that um, Zimbabwe will not be readmitted into the Commonwealth. Because if the Commonwealth makes that mistake, I think they will live to regret it, because it will open a Pandora's box for them. And as for Zimbabwe itself, if it was left to me, at the next opportune moment, will take Zimbabwe out, because it cannot belong to an organization that does not even respect you as an equal human being entitled to the same democratic values as announced in the Harare Declaration. Those were the basic values that we've been fighting for all these years. The fact that ZANU-PF has shortchanged us does not mean that we are giving up on those rights. And for the Commonwealth to be siding with ZANU-PF just to appease ZANU-PF is the most ridiculous argument I could possibly have. And I totally agree with Lord Oates when he says that if the British government means it has got to stand alone and say, no, those are fundamental rights that we cannot compromise on, and our position is Zimbabwe has not met those rights, and doesn't justify it being readmitted to the Commonwealth. And if it means some of the people will leave the Commonwealth in protest, so be it. Rather than go along with and be on the wrong side of history, because I believe this will take the Commonwealth on the wrong side of history. Thanks very much, gentlemen, and with that, we'll close.